Penn State football. Well, we're going to take a detour before we talk Penn State football. We are going to talk about some news that came out today. Um, so, and Steve also apparently has some news that I don't know if he's going to be able to confirm by the time. But it's not as major as this. Well, no, it's always big. All of our news is big. Okay. So this morning, Penn State's Board of Trustees approved a new contract extension for Pat Kraft through June 2032, which sounds like a made up year. He is effectively gonna get a little bit of a raise. It's an 8-year contract worth 2.26 million, and then can get 350 million annually based on specific goals, etc. I think this makes a lot of
350,000 annually?
yes, yeah,
More?
annually,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay. Sorry.
yeah. So I think this makes a lot of sense for Penn State right now, where Penn State is at, to let Pat Kraft see through really everything that he's putting together, particularly around the stadium. I think that's big. I don't quite think that takes us to a new TV contract, but I believe it gets us pretty close. So that's going to be a factor in all of this. I think this is about kind of, maybe as James Franklin alluded to today, a little bit of just, it's very nice to have consistency. And I think it seems like what we know about the relationship between James Franklin and Pat Kraft is they're very much are on the same page. And it seems like this is a little bit of like that symbiotic relationship kind of continuing and coming together. And I think that's only gonna, if you're a Penn State fan, enhance that aspect. I'm interested to see other aspects that we beat probably to a horse, like to a dead horse on this podcast a little bit, but I am interested to see things like ticket prices, fan engagement, things like that, and how those are impacted. But all in all, I think a good, smart move to keep him here through at least effectively the build of the stadium, and then 5 years after the fact.
Yeah, it's stability, it's consistency, it's the things that the college intercollegiate athletics landscape is not right now, right? Like we don't want to have change internally to your program amidst everything else that's going on. So it's the right move. I don't know that I've ever been like, oh, I know it's not that I haven't. I know I haven't been on the. Oh, thank Pat Kraft for fighting the Big Ten about opening on the road. Like I always thought that was hyped, but he has championed the program, brought energy to the program, championed all the sports. I mean, basically pressed all the right buttons. I mean, I think the fighter thing is, like I said, a little overplayed, but his energy matters. He's on the field and cares about the football and the other sports. He doesn't mind being seen. So yeah, it's the right call for the program overall.
Yeah, I think he's making. I've thought more, and maybe it's just because we're doing this podcast now, right? Like, but I've thought more about the athletic director position, maybe more than I ever have in the 30 years I've been a Penn State football fan, and Penn State sports fan, really. Um, and I think a lot of it is mostly good. Like, and I think some of it is like there's a balance, and I kind of talked about this in the Olympics column that I had written of like, we want this to continue in terms of like that success, and it's great, and that success is awesome, but then there's also going to have to be sacrifices that are made to like support those other sports. And I think that's what the next kind of era of particularly as like this house stuff comes down, like what's that going to look like is maybe what I'm paying attention to uh, next for him.
Yeah, and he has stability himself and job security amidst changes that are going to come, right?
Right.
Like, what are you going to do with some other sports? Are everybody going to remain elevated? Everybody going to are you going to not invest as much in some other sport? So he'll be shielded in a sense with this longevity insured against some of those decisions that some people may or may not like. Maybe everything will be roses and rainbows, but that might be surprising if that happened that way too.
Well, and I think the other thing is you've got quite literally like some big decisions to make. I mean, he'll probably have at least one or two um, renegotiations of Mike Rhodes' contract if that would come up, and then you assuming that James Franklin stays around, like that's part of all of this interestingness, which I think he is. Um, we'll get to that more later, but I think he's going to have a contract extension there to talk about and play out and see how that plays out. If it's a good move. Like, I think it is a good move. So I don't know. Just wanted to kind of talk that through and kind of get through all that. Anything else you want to add there?
Nope.